teenagers having sex isn't a new idea, but how they learn about safe sex and sexual health has. With the growing accessibility of the internet, the amount of knowledge on the subject has as well, but not all of it is accurate. And with the different ways parents approach the subject to teach their kids, important things get left out, things like birth control. My topic is the need for sexual education to be taught in schools. I'm qualified to teach the subject, as I have attended a high school and a middle school where the sex ed taught was lacking important information. There are 3 main points of my speech. The first is history of sexual education. The second point is the advantages of it being taught in school. And my third and final point will be the disadvantages. Let's start from where the U.S. decided it first needed sexual education. My first point is why the U.S. decided it was needed. In a 2016 document by Planned Parenthood, in the 1960s, the World Health Organization released a statement saying how the knowledge of sexual health can improve one's physical health while also having positive effects on personal relationships. People should have the ability to have sexual relationships free from beliefs that would shame them for it. The WHO's definition helps separate what the views the world had on sex in the 19th and 20th centuries. According to a 2021 study by the Guttmacher Institute, they collected information on what states and the District of Columbia say are required for students to learn. The chart covers states' stances on medical accuracy, HIV education, contraceptives, condoms, etc. There's not a single topic that they all are required to have. The topic that came the closest was a stance on abstinence, where most states either stressed its importance or covered it, with only a few states not covering it at all. The topic that was taught the least was consent, with only 9 states requiring it. Some states have laws that specifically leave out and discriminate against the LGBTQ community, with Mississippi stating that mandated HIV education teaches that, among other behaviors, homosexual activity is considered to be responsible for contact with the AIDS virus. Religious activities saw an opportunity to use the movement as a way to keep people from masturbating and participating in premarital sex. 2 goals that were not intended. A document by the Sexuality Information and Education Council of the U.S. states how the U.S. slowly started to roll back its ideas on the topic. In the 1980s, with the invention of female birth control and the legislation of abortion, it changed how the U.S. viewed sex. The public opinion on both parents having the talk with their kids and the U.S. slowly starting to loosen its views on sex helped as well. Conservative organizations started to state how sex ed was being used to turn kids away from religion. This has affected the percentage of high schools teaching different sex ed topics, such as condom use and methods of contraception, putting it on a steady decline since the early 2000s. My second point is the advantages of sexual education. In an article posted by the CDC about the benefits of sex ed, they found that teens that are taught accurate sex ed information can identify potential risks for sexual health in the real world. They know about the different products and services that could help them, things like condoms, birth control, STD tests, etc. It allows students the confidence to talk to their healthcare providers. Teaching school-age children different topics at different ages helps solve problems before they get bad. Teaching preteens information on puberty and its physical and emotional aspects, teens can learn about healthy relationships and what they look like. It can also delay sexual initiation. My third and final point is the disadvantages of sex ed. One of the main arguments against sex ed is how people feel children are exposed to topics that they might not be ready for. That sexual education and learning about it early in one's life can disrupt their morals. So they created abstinence-only education, a system for sex ed that says waiting for sex till marriage would decrease teen pregnancy rates and prevent the spread of STDs. Despite studies showing that abstinence only doesn't work, backers of the program cherry-pick programs for studies to make it look good overall. The laws in place to protect it are harmful and promote stereotypes. The stereotype that poor women on welfare were reckless and promiscuous and would have kids outside of marriage birthed the welfare queen stereotype. A poor black inner city woman that had a lot of kids in order to collect welfare and live off of it. This stereotype still exists. In conclusion, I've talked about sexual education in schools. I had 3 specific points that I focused on in my speech. My first point was the history of sexual education in the US. My second point was the advantages of sexual education being taught in the classroom. My last point was the disadvantages of sexual education. The future of sexual education in schools has problems that it needs to work out if all children across America can equally get a good education in the subject. The fact that the curriculum is not the same across state lines and discriminates against certain people is terrible. But the science and reasoning why it is important is still there, waiting for all teens to get a chance to learn. Thank you.